Hey, look. Labels blowing up my line and got me missing calls. Told her you ain't gotta hit me till you licking. Feel like ZVF, baby, I be cooler than the mink weather. Make a Coke bottle, give me brain till I think better. Back up on my again, hanging out with Benjamin. Franklin got me stankin' in the Lincoln, talking dividends. Look at what we did again.
Brother DMG the poet. Y'all know what it is. Before we get into our spiel, I gotta do my spiel. Let me say God bless to all my Christian brothers and sisters. Let me say Hotep to my Kemetic brothers and sisters. I want to say Shalom or Shalom to all my Israelite brothers and sisters. I want to say Assalamu Alaikum to all my brothers and sisters in the NOI. I want to say Islam to all my Moorish brothers and sisters. I want to say peace to all my brothers and sisters in the nation of gods and earth, them 5%ers. I want to say what's up to all my Rasta brothers and sisters. Salute to all my atheist brothers and sisters. What's up to all my Abo brothers and sisters. Big what up to all my Naga brothers and sisters. Last and certainly not least, I want to say Jambo to all the rest of my brothers and sisters all throughout the African diaspora, be it here in the wilderness of the United States of America or beyond. Y'all know I say that greeting for one reason and one reason only. It's because if you black, I'm with you. And I hope that you with me. Our different ideologies should not keep us from uniting. We can have unity without uniformity. And guess what, family? As hard as it may be, we can disagree without being disrespectfully disagreeable. With that being said, family, let's get into it.
Yo, what's going on? It's your boy GT here for another podcast of GT's Project. And today I'm going to be dealing with history and the Bible. Of course, it's going to be this has to be a subject where we have to be disagreeably. I always mess up when I get to that part. I can't never remember that part. We're going to have to agree to disagree on a lot of things. For unbelievers, me being a Christian, of course, we're going to have two different views two different views about the history of the world. So before I get into my spiel, let me read this disclaimer for you, and then we'll carry on. So we have here the information presented here on Paradigm Shift TV 314 is made available solely for the general purpose of information purposes. Paradigm Shift TV does not warrant the accuracy, completeness, or usefulness of this information. Any information is strictly at your own risk. Any reliance upon this information is at your own risk. Paradigm Shift TV 314 disclaims all liability and responsibility arising from any reliance placed on such materials by you or any other visitor to the platform, or by anyone who may be informed of any of its contents. Paradigm Shift TV 314 may include content provided by third parties, including materials provided by other users, bloggers, and third-party licensors, syndicators, aggregators, and or reporting services. All statements and or opinions expressed in these materials and all articles and responses to the questions and other content other than the content provided by Paradigm Shift TV 314 are solely the opinions and responsibility of the person or entity providing those information. And again, as I always say, that person will be me. Paradigm Shift TV 314 is not, the materials do not necessarily reflect the opinions of Paradigm Shift TV 314 and is not responsible or liable to you or any third party for the content or accuracy of any materials provided by any third party. And so with that being said, let's move on to the next slide. So again, welcome to the broadcast of the GT Project. Shout out to DMG. Shout out to the Paradigm Shift affiliates. Shout out to the super team. Shout out to the dream team. And I'm here to let y'all know, again, as I always do, that I grew up Christian, and therefore my worldview is from a biblical perspective. And for nearly every subject that I explore, I use my biblical perspective to help me figure out what's going on in this world. And so today we are exploring the discipline of history, or the study of history, and how, as a Christian, I use the same methods, but I use it from a biblical perspective. So today, again, we're going to start off, here's the outline for you. We're going to start off with the definition of history. We're going to start off with the definition of history. We're going to go into the two competitive worldviews, naturalism and the biblical, or I should have put biblical creation. But in any case, we also going to go into some of the evidence used by both parties to formulate a conclusion about world history. For example, you have the Darwinian philosophy, and then you have the biblical or creationist literal interpretation methods. Oh, excuse me. I'm also going to give you examples using the fossil records. I also threw a slide in there about the second intermediate period of Egypt, because it serves as an archaeological example, and also the origins of mankind, just a look into that. And in conclusion, pretty much just wanting to look at the history from the naturalist perspective, and what future does the naturalists hold, and the history from the biblical perspective, and what the future holds according to the biblical perspective. And then a very important question, pretty much: which perspective do you hold, or will you hold? Would you want to hold? Next slide. So history is the study of human experiences, events, and cultures, which helps us understand how societies and civilizations have developed and changed over time. So when we talk about biblical history is the study of past events, people, and cultures recorded in the Bible, which provides a sacred and interpretive account of God's relationship with humanity, and from creation to the early Christian church and beyond. Now, as a Christian, the changes over time, the development of civilizations and their experiences can be best explained from the biblical perspective. And here's what I mean when I say that. So when we look at, for example, let's see, the Ice Age, right? So the naturalist view would tell you that the Ice Ages was caused by a change in Earth's environment, and it lasted for maybe hundreds of thousands of years. But there's a school of thought within the biblical perspective who would say that the Ice Ages was caused by the after effects of Noah's flood. That's just an example of what I'm talking about. So next slide. Now, so the way that historians verify history is through a series of what you will call the scientific method. You have your primary sources, like original documents, artifacts, and eyewitness accounts. We don't have the original manuscripts as far as like when it comes to the Bible. And the continuity of the Bible, I probably should have put that slide in here, but the continuity of the Bible, I feel, is it justifies as as proof text of the history that's within the Bible. But for examples for other primary sources, you will have, like down here at the bottom, you have the Assyrian kings list. When historians try to figure out, let's say, the timeline between the kings of Assyria, let's say going back from Sargon II. All right, Sargon II lived right around the time of the let me see. Sargon II is an older king in Assyria who lives, I believe, either before or after Tiglath-Pileser. I don't have my notes with me as far as like the Assyrian kings list is concerned, but when historians look back and they see Sargon II, what they can do is look at the kings list and go back how many years this king reigned prior to the king before him, and then they use that methodology to try and get an exact of how many years the dynasties or the history of Assyria has been with us. And so they make their determinations with that. And the crazy part about it, though, is like even within these primary sources, you will have like this tablet here is broken. So you might have some information that might be missing. And so historians are left to guess exactly what may be missing or how much time is missing and things of that nature. So it's not always exact. And that's another thing that we need to understand. But we also have diplomatic letters from the Egyptians, like the Queen Ta, who sent letters to the Canaanite kings, the Hittite king, to marry one of his princes because her husband had died, and so she needed an heir to the throne. But that king was killed. But again, it's another example of primary sources. Archaeological evidence, like you will have the Hittite city of Mitanni. Remember, at one point in time, archaeologists and historians didn't believe that the biblical people, the Hittites, were even a real thing until, the excavations were done, and then they found, okay, yeah, so the Hittites are real. And the archaeology really helps fill in those type of gaps. You have the black obelisk of Ashurbanipal, who lists the amount of goods that came from the Israelite king Jehu. And there's even what you would call a hieroglyphic or image on a black obelisk that shows the king bowing down, prostrating in front of the king and bringing him gifts. The crazy part about that, well, I ain't gonna say crazy part, but the cool thing about it is that we have the black obelisk, and then we have the biblical scriptures that we can put together and say, okay, so we have something from the Bible, and then we have something from outside of the Bible. And some people will refer to that as extra biblical resources. But again, if you're a Christian or a believer in the Bible, then you would not just that. If you're a believer in the Bible, or if you're an unbeliever in the Bible and God, the archaeological evidence is undeniable. And so you would take that piece of evidence and link it together with the evidence from the scriptures, and then you can get a broader range of information when you combine the two. And you got to also remember that in some cases you will have information that might be contrary to one another. And I'll give an example for something like that later on if I can remember. But one good example will be like Ramses' war against the Hittites and how he used propaganda in the hieroglyphs on the walls of Karnak to list out his great and wonderful campaign, you would think that he won this war, but in reality, it was just a stalemate. So we also have secondary sources like the historians' accounts. I put on here Josephus. I'm sorry, Josephus. He's a first century historian. You have some that was before him, like the Egyptian historian Manetho, and Josephus quotes Manetho. And another thing about Manetho's writings is that we don't have the originals of that, and so we have to be reliant upon other historians that have used his work to try and fill in the gaps of their own histories. Corroboration, cross-checking multiple sources to confirm the accuracy. This one can be very time-consuming because the sources can be talking about the same events, but with a biased slant propaganda, as I already stated. Historical contextualization, understanding the events within their cultural, social, and temporal context. When we talk about timelines, and then we want to talk about comparing cultures with one another, you may hear historians use the term ancient Near East, the ancient Near East culture. And really all they talking about is the culture at a specific time that has, or the cultures that lived at the same time within the same general geographical areas. They have similar modes of language. They have similar cultures that may vary here and there. For example, you will have the poems of the Egyptian Amenhotep, whose poems and proverbs sound eerily similar to that of Solomon's. And because of that timeline mix-up, a lot of people feel like Solomon borrowed from the Egyptian source. But when you really look into it and you do other studies, you will see that the Egyptian Amenhotep and Solomon may very well have been alive at the same time or within the same time. I'll go over chronologies at another time, but that's just another way that people verify history. I have, again, peer-reviewed documentations by scholars. That's another way history can be verified. I got on here Dr. Jensen, David Rowe, Finkelstein. These are the people that I've read, the books that I've read, and they all don't agree with each other. But you have to have a level of discernment to try and make sense of what everybody is saying. And then you have the documentary analysis, or the critical examination of documents such as manuscripts, photographs, and films. Again, this is to help prevent certain things like forgeries or accepting forgeries as legitimate history, and even the dating methods. Unfortunately, your boy Billy Carson found out the hard way, and that's the reason why I'm doing this particular show, is to try and encourage anybody who likes history to actually go and do the research. And these are the 5 ways that you can help yourself understand the history. All right. So, but by combining these methods, historians can reconstruct and verify historical events and their narratives. Next slide. Silent K. Peace. What up, Silent K? I don't know what your real name is, but appreciate you for jumping on. If you got any comments or anything, just put them in here. I'll put them in. Or if you want to jump on later on, I'm gonna put the link in so y'all can hop on. But let's continue. I'm trying to be more adequate in checking these comments, because last time DMG popped on and I didn't see his comment until like the end of the show. But in any case, let's hide that and let's continue. So what you have to understand is that there are several competing worldviews, which include, as listed here, theism. And theism is the belief in a personal God or gods. For example, Christianity, which I am. You have Islam, you have Judaism. You also have polytheism, which are religions that believe in multiple gods. And if you can see, well, I'm gonna go through these and then I'll explain why I have them boxed off. You have atheism, which is the rejection of belief in God or gods. Naturalism, which is another, and I've paired these two together because they kind of go hand in hand. Let's see what we got here. Peace. What's going on with you, bro? Appreciate you for checking in, Mo. All right. So let me continue here explaining this. So I got atheism blocked off with atheism and naturalism blocked off. And naturalism basically is the belief that only natural laws and forces govern the universe, which is ironic to me because to govern, well, you got laws and then you got govern. But the question is, who put the laws in place? And the other question is, how do these natural laws know how to govern anything when it comes to the universe? But again, that's just my personal belief. But atheism, naturalism, you got agnosticism, which is the uncertainty or lack of knowledge about God's existence. So you saw on the last slide, I had my boy David Roll up there. He is not a Christian. And I know a lot of Christians feel like, oh, well, you shouldn't be using non-Christian sources. But again, I argue against that point because when it comes to subjects like the reality of Jesus Christ, the historicity of Jesus Christ, or Jesus being a real person, they will run so fast to Bart Ehrman, I think that's his name, and he's a staunch unbeliever. But because he believes Jesus Christ is a real person, Christians quote his work. And so, in all fairness, with Bart Ehrman being, I believe he's an atheist, and with David Roll being an agnostic, as you can see is defined here, uncertainty of the knowledge of God's existence. David Roll is just like, he don't know if God exists or not. But what he does say is what the scripture says from a historical perspective, from what his research has gathered, they all, most of the events, especially in the Old Testament, can be verified with archaeological evidence. But because he's not a believer, some people look down on Christians using his work. But I'm a free man. I do whatever I want as far as that is concerned. So then you have postmodernism. My boy David would eat this up if he was on here. There you go. What up, Mo? What up with you, bro? All right, so let me keep going. So yeah, like I said, postmodernism, it's just the skepticism of objective truth and grand narratives. And what that basically means is that with postmodernism, there is no objective truth. Everything is subjective. And this is not my area of expertise, but talking to the bros, yes, daggone it, because of, I would say, the Enlightenment era, we've seen a gradual rise in the denial or the disbelief in the scriptural account of history. And some of the information that came out in the early 1800s and late 1800s and early 1900s were not sufficient and have been found to be questionable. And so because of that, the rise of postmodernism had taken place. So it's like, we don't know what to believe now. But then you also have pantheism, the belief that God or divine reality is identical with the universe. I ain't gonna go into that. But you do have some people that believe that God does consist of all the physical material that is made up in the universe. In essence, is they believe that God is the creation, which is not biblical, but that's the pantheist perspective. Then you got Marxism, which emphasizes on class struggle, economic determination, and communism. So again, the reason I block these two off is because the two competitive views that we want to look at and their perspective is the biblical creationist perspective, and then also the atheist or naturalistic perspective. And then we'll go from there. Truth is, let's see. Truth is what the facts are. Truth is supported by evidence. And that's very true. And that's what I'm getting into. Like, if something is to be true, it should be able to be proven by some type of evidence. But the problem is, we'll see later, is how to interpret that evidence. But let's continue. The evidence. So the evidence, as you can see here, what I have here, I have the fossil record. And when we talk about the evidence that historians use, it can be the fossil records, archaeological sites, megaliths around the world, and things of that nature. And I put uniformitarianism on here, and I'm gonna give the definition real quick. So in uniformitarianism in geology, the doctrine suggests that the Earth's geological processes acted in the same manner and with essentially the same intensity in the past as they do in the present, and that such uniformity is sufficient to account for all geological change. This principle is fundamental to the geological thinking and underlies the whole development of the science of geology. So we're dealing with geology here, and basically, so examples, what I'm talking about here is like the example would be like that of radiocarbon decay rates. Some would say that the rate of change or the rate of decay in radiocarbon is constant, but we don't know if it was constant or the same rate thousands of years ago, 2,000 years ago, 3,000 years ago, not alone 10,000 to 200,000 years ago. We just don't know if those radiocarbon, the decay or the decay rate of radiocarbon is the same. Now, if scientists are using, if the scientists today are using the current decay rate to determine the age of an object, like in the earth or things of that nature, and to determine the age of the object, they are testing whatever they're testing, and they conclude the age of whatever object they're testing with radiocarbon date tests. They might say this thing is hundreds of thousands of years old, when in fact it could very well be 5,000 to 6,000 years old. But this is the type of thinking that we have within academia. That's just one example. Again, it's like if the radiocarbon dating or the radiocarbon decay rates are not the same, I mean, not are the same, but if the radiocarbon decay rate and how it's measured today, we don't know because we wasn't there of what the decay rate was 100, 300, maybe even 1,000 years ago. We don't know. They wasn't testing it, and we weren't there to test it. And so if they use this methodology based off a predetermined or a faulty testing system, then the age that they give us could be wrong. And so in the scriptures, of course, we have what's given to us, the age of the earth from creation all the way up to the New Testament, and then from the New Testament to our time, which is about 6,000 years old. So these are the two competing views. The naturalistic point of view on history, we have billions of years, and from the biblical perspective, we only have thousands of years. So these are the two competing views that you should know about, and that's the only reason why I'm putting it out. My man says here, I'm going to show this real quick. How did you determine if the rate of decay is different? The elements are the same, their composition and the workings of physics are what they are. So we're talking about geology, and when you get into physics, we get into the atoms, the smaller particles and things that make up creation. Again, I would love for you, my friend Ortega, if there was a way to determine in the past how fast the decay rates were for radiocarbon dating, please show it to me. But I know 100% that you won't be able to do that because nobody was there recording the decay rates of radiocarbon. Like I said, it could have been faster. It could have been faster in the past, or it could have been slower. We don't know. All we know is that there's a particular rate of decay that we use now, and that's where uniformitarianism comes in. All right, so let's move on to the next slide. I'll give you another example of what I'm talking about here. So when we talk about the evidence that historians use, it can be the fossil records, archaeological sites, megaliths, as I stated before. Fossils are the preserved remains of plants, animals, and it's the remains of their bodies that were buried in sediments such as sand, mud, under ancient seas, lakes, rivers. Fossils also include any preserved trace of life that is typically more than 10,000 years old. I'll get into how they come to these conclusions later on. But it says here, soft body parts decay softer after death, but the hard parts such as bones, shells, and teeth can be replaced by minerals that harden in rock. A fossil is any preserved remains, impression, or trace of any once living thing from a past geological age. Examples include bones, shells, exoskeletons, stone imprints of animals or microbes, objects preserved in amber, hair, petrified wood, and DNA remnants. Again, I'm a little questionable on that. That comes from Wiki. I don't know how DNA can be pulled out of fossils, because as it states here, if it's buried in mud, the soft tissue is gone. The soft tissue is gone. And so there should not be any biological remnants of any fossil because, again, the soft tissue is gone. But let me continue and I'll get back to it. So there's much disagreement amongst scholars and paleontologists about how the fossil record was laid down, which is true. If you don't know by now, I feel heavily from a chronological perspective, which is grounded in the foundation of the Bible or the biblical timeline, And so therefore, for me, this is an easy question to answer. When we look at this fossil on the left, when the historians, when they come and look at this fossil, they'll tell you from the stratigraphy only deals with the stratigraphy of the ground, the layers into which they find these fossils in. And so when they find these fossils, they have already predetermined, you know what I'm saying, by the depth of the stratigraphy or how deep something is, that is thousands of years old, hundreds of years old. It could be weeks, years old, just depending on how far down it is in the dirt and where they're at. They have what is called the geological column. But here's my thing. When you have, when they tell you that fossils can take what it says, hundreds of thousands of years or even thousands of years to form, if you look on the right side, you will see a fossil, but it's a fossil of a boot. Now, is it safe? Is it safe to say? I don't even say. I'm not even going to say if it's safe to say. What I'm going to say, does it make sense to say that people were running around 10,000 years BC with cowboy boots on? Nah, they weren't. Doesn't make any sense. And so, again, when the historians, the archaeologists, anthropologists, when they all come to their conclusions, they already have a predetermined conclusion or perspective that they pull from to make their interpretations. But in nature, we see that the fossilization of organic matter doesn't take hundreds or thousands of years. It can happen within a few short years, as this boot on the right side proves. So it don't take fossils. It don't take fossils that long to form. And so when you look at the naturalist view, they look at these fossils, they look at the fossil records, they say these fossils are located in this particular group of layer of the dirt or stratigraphy. And then there's another layer. They say the one at the bottom is older, and the higher and higher you go, the younger and younger it gets. But again, is that a good way to determine the age of something when we can see that the natural processes don't even take that long to happen? It's just trying to give you a different perspective to go by. All right. He said, do I want to step into the ring? Okay, let's see. He said, you claim it's a boot. Let me show this to you. Hide, and let me bring this up. So Mr. Ortega says that I'm claiming that this is a boot. It is a boot. I got the resources on the last page, or you can go and Google it yourself and look up fossilized boot and go directly to the website. The tag is still on the boot, bro. So I don't know what you're talking about there. The tag is still on there. All right. So let's continue. Everybody can see it's a boot. All right, here's another one that I like, and this is coming from the archaeological perspective. Just to give you a little background information on Mr. B-Tech. Let me read this first. So B-Tech, he's a professor of Egyptology, University of Vienna. He works as principal investigator of the ERC Advanced Grant Project, the Hyksos Enigma, editor-in-chief of the journal Egyptian and Levant, or Egypt and the Levant, and the fourth series of the Austrian Academy of Sciences Institute of Oriental European Archaeology. Okay, so why did I bring him up? And the reason why I brought him up is because he's an archaeologist. And in the area where the children of Israel were supposed to have settled, he found a mass grave. Okay, So let me go to the next slide. He found, now in history, this might be a little deeper than, you know, some of the lay people that might get into this subject, but in history and archaeology, you would hear the archaeologists use terms like again, stratigraphy, Iron Age, Bronze Age, Iron Age, Stone, all of that. And this is how they categorize some of their findings. And for Mr. B-Tech here, I'm gonna read here. So yeah, matter of fact, when he went into Egypt, the place is called Goshen in the Bible. The most ancient name for this place is Avaris. And when this was, again, the place where the Bible said that the children of Israel settled. So when the people that lived there in our modern times was farming, a gentleman found artifacts, or he ran into an artifact underneath the ground, and then they started doing the excavations. And so what B-Tech found at what you will call, I think is stratum F, which is a little higher than stratum G, he finds, let me read here. I'm going to explain what we see here, what you're looking at. So this is a settlement of Semites. If you don't know what a Semite is, a Semite is somebody who is from the Levant. They're considered to be Semitic. So you might hear that term. But look, like I said, B-Tech found a mass grave, as you can see here on the left. Now, remember what happened in the Exodus. God caused a plague to come upon Egypt. And so what we see here is the bodies that B-Tech found in these pits were part of an Asiatic group that had been highly Egyptianized. What does that mean? That means that these people were Semitic, but they also took on the Egyptian culture. All right. So the culture, these Semites, they were Egyptianized according to B-Tech. And Egyptologists are not sure how long between these bodies were placed in the graves and when these new Asiatics came in. Remember, he's talking about the Hyksos. So prior to the Hyksos coming in, the Hyksos are considered to be Semites. The Egyptians referred to them as shepherd kings. And looking at the hieroglyphs on the walls of Khnumhotep of the 11th dynasty, you will see this display of Hyksos coming into Egypt. Another time for that. But the problem that B-Tech was having, and for archaeologists, is that he doesn't believe that this plague that we see that B-Tech dug up was of the Exodus. And the reason why is because based off the same faulty methods that the secularists or the naturalists use, it doesn't place this site that you see here in front of you around the same time as the Exodus. And that too also is another issue as to why we have such a dilemma when it comes to the Egyptian timeline, is because one is based off of a faulty identification of a king. And apart from that, I don't want to get too bogged down, but that's basically the point here. Archaeology, we have the evidence here. But if you come from a non-biblical perspective, when you look at this, you're not going to say, just as B-Tech said, that this is the settlement where the children of Israel came in. What you're going to say is that these were Semites who came from the Levant, settled. It was a heavy population there, but it has nothing to do with the Exodus. If you saw the interview with B-Tech, that's what he said. He said, yeah, they were Semites. Yes, they were Egyptianized, but no, this has nothing to do with the Exodus. And again, it's because of that faulty methodology that you have naturalists use. But in this case, with Egypt's timeline was done by the faulty timeline was concocted by, I don't even want to use the word concocted. I would just say Champollion, Francis Champollion made a mistake. And now we have an anchor point in Egyptian history where it should not be. But again, we got two different perspectives. And because it's because of that situation where you have the naturalists or atheists who will look at the scriptures and say, well, that's not historical, it's myth, it's made up, because there was no Exodus in Egypt at that time. We don't find evidence of a plague, but here we have in the archaeological site that matches perfectly with what the Bible says about the Exodus. Is just, unfortunately, it's just in the wrong time. But the question is, should we rely on the conventional timeline? Should we rely on the conventional schemes that have been given to us after years and years of new discoveries demonstrating that what they once believed about a particular event, they have to reconsider? Again, the history of the Hittites were deemed myth because they hadn't found any archaeology on them. So you had atheists running around saying, hey, the Bible is not historical, the Bible is fake, y'all made it up, and all this other stuff, until they found the gate of Baal. Matter of fact, they brought either the replica or the gate itself to New York as a display. Why? But again, they thought that this place or the Hittites were a myth. So when we reconsider things and re-examine some things, we might have to reconsider, again, like I said, we might have to reconsider some of that old information that they've been putting out. And I would say, as far as the Egyptian timeline is concerned, that definitely needs to be balled up, thrown in the trash, and started from scratch, because there's way too many inconsistencies. Next slide. Where's this man's comment at? Let me hide that. J Fax, what's up, baby? Got J Fax in the house. Yeah, he's really obsessed, bro. He's really obsessed. In any case, let's keep going. Let us keep going. I'm telling you, when you're having fun, time goes so fast. I'm already at almost 50 minutes. This is crazy. So, before the advancement of technology and medicine, secular anthropologists using the Darwinian philosophy of evolution believed that Neanderthals to be like a subclass or not even part of the human gene pool, but basically a transitional hominoid from a monkey on its way to being a human, right? So from the Britannica website, let me read here what it says. Until the late 20th century, Neanderthals were regarded as genetically, morphologically, and behaviorally distinct from living humans. However, it's always that however part. More recent discoveries about the well-preserved fossil Eurasian population have revealed an overlap between living archaic humans. So in other words, what they're saying is that at one time, they didn't believe the Neanderthal to be part of the human species, but a completely different entity. But because of recent discoveries, and then it says here that more recent discoveries about this well-preserved fossil. Again, if it's a fossil, soft material does not remain in fossils. So if your flag's not raised up already, from me reading what the Britannica is saying, fossils do not produce organic material unless it's younger than what we are told. That's all I'm saying. Again, new discoveries have caused the scientific community to go back and look at some of the conventional methods of doing things, because new discoveries have caused their old theories to be null and void. Again, Big Bang Theory, right? James Webb Telescope kind of put that in question, because as far out as they thought, they said, hey, we go far enough, we should be able to see the remnants of the Big Bang. But instead, what they found was completely different than what they thought. They thought they was going to find, galaxies being created or in the process of being created. However, they found galaxies that were whole, already formed. So again, did the Big Bang happen, or was everything created the way that the Bible says? Just something to think about. So they developed a successful culture. This is, again, Britannica right here. They developed a successful culture with a complex stone tool technology. Complex tool technology. So what I was told about the Neanderthals is that they dwelled in caves, beat their women over the head with the club, hunted. They hunted the the local wildlife. The woolly mammoth was one of them, but other excavations or other discoveries show that they had jewelry. Here it says they had complex stone tool technologies. These people are supposed to be dumb, according to the atheist perspective on history. But instead, we find that they make tools, they hunt, they even have a culture. It's crazy. So again, each time new discoveries are found, the atheist perspective on history has to change. But only the Bible's perspective has remained the same. Now, what can I say about Neanderthals in light of what the scriptures say? Most creationists, I would say, believe that the Neanderthal is basically our early human ancestors who lived shortly after the flood. And remember, earlier I said that the ice age, from the biblical perspective, was caused by Noah's flood. And so you have these Neanderthals who are alive shortly, who are living shortly after the flood, and they have to live in this environment, this icy and cold environment, to survive. And the fact that now today scientists, biologists were able to sequence their DNA and find out that people alive today have Neanderthal DNA within their genomes. That tells me that the Neanderthal history is much closer than what we originally thought. That's the only point that I'm making right here. All right. So in the worldview of naturalism, mankind came about through the process of evolution. But in the biblical view, mankind came about via the creation of God. All right. I'm put the link in there, Ortega, so you can come in here. You sure got a lot to say, my brother. Moving right along. So with naturalism, there is no causation. Again, so when we consider the historical aspects of both sides, with naturalism, there is no causation. They don't know what caused it. I don't even think they care about who caused it or what caused it. All they know is that it happened. And in this mindset or in this particular perspective, again, if there's no causation for the creation of man, for the creation of the universe, for the creation of the world, well, guess what? There's no plan. There's no plan at work here. Mankind is just an accident. Like, have you ever heard parents joke with their children where they say, you know what, you was really an accident. I didn't mean to have you. That's a little cold, but think about it. A creation without a cause, a creation without a plan, a creation that a creation that has no relationship, and a creation that they say will eventually come to its end. The picture on the very top, this is the naturalistic's perspective of how this world is going to come to an end. Eventually, the sun will get big and bigger and bigger into a red giant until it eventually swallows up the earth. And guess what? We're gone. Nothing else matters. We're gone. There's no purpose of being here. There's no relationship. There's no God. And this is our history, and this is their perspective on history. It started with a big bang. We got billions of years that transpire until the first human. That first human comes about for some strange reason out of this pool of goop, and then into this complexity of life that we see today. Is that the view that you hold? Because I can't hold to that view, simply because there is no causation, relationship, or plan. But with the biblical perspective, or the creationist or biblical perspective, which takes a literal aspect on creation, there is a cause. God is the cause of creation. I have some Christian friends who say, hey, the Big Bang, God caused the Big Bang. You know what? Y'all can have that. Y'all can have that. I would even say maybe there was a Big Bang, but I don't believe the Big Bang caused the creation process. I believe that the Big Bang was the result of when God took the heavens or took the universe and expanded it. Because the scripture says that God spread the heavens like a garment. Scientifically, that's what we see. When we look into space, everything is moving away from Earth on every side. Everything is moving away from Earth. And the scripture does say that God expanded the heavens. And so I'll leave that at that. But again, we have a causation in the scriptures. And if there's causation in the scriptures for creation and history, well, that means that there's a relationship, because God created the heavens and the earth for a reason. And that reason was for you, and it was for me. It was for mankind to live in. All the creative processes were done because God had you and me in mind. All right. And what's the plan? The plan basically was to the plan basically was to establish a relationship with his creation. So historically, we see that in the scriptures from the Bible. The atheist perspective doesn't have that. There's no relationship. There's no purpose for you to live. And I can't help but think that a lot of times when we see mass shootings, human trafficking, things of that nature, a lot of people involved in that do not believe in God. And their worldview is like that of the naturalist. There's no God. There's no plan of salvation. There's no causation. All right. But again, the plan. I got a picture here, AI. The plan, again, was to cultivate and to create a relationship with mankind according to the scriptures. So the history of the Bible, I'm going to keep repeating it. There's a plan. There's a cause. And the plan, overall plan at the end, is to restore that relationship with mankind forever and forever, instead of mankind being burnt up by this red giant of a sun that will eventually swallow up the earth. And again, the atheist perspective, the naturalist perspective, is contrary to what the scripture says, because although in the end the light of the sun and the light of the moon will not be needed, because God himself and Jesus will be the light of the city. But it doesn't say anything about the sun dissolving away or growing big and swallowing up the earth. Now, there are prophetic implications to the earth being on fire and things of that nature, but not to the point to where there is no more earth and then God comes along and creates a whole new earth. That doesn't happen. Let me go a little bit more into details with this, and then then I'm gonna open it up for everybody. So again, what we talked about was the definition of history, and it's the study of past events, particularly of human affairs. The things that have already happened can only be verified through eyewitness accounts written by the people who were experiencing those events. I gave you examples on that. The artifacts that they find associated with the times and those events. I show you how B-Tech at his site found a mass grave that was filled in with bodies, not in any particular religious fashion or anything, which indicates that there was a plague. But that his archaeological findings were interpreted from a non-biblical perspective, and therefore for Manfred B-Tech, that site that I showed earlier didn't have anything to do with the Exodus according to him. But the scriptures says otherwise. So it's two opposing views. Historians who have written about specific events of the past, I gave you Manetho, Josephus, you got Homer, you have, what's his name? Artenaceous. I can't remember his name, but that's another historian. And then we have historians of our days, Finkelstein, David Rowe, a couple of others that are out there. The two worldviews that are at play today is the naturalist view that holds to the Darwinian concept of evolution, and the second is, which actually was the first dominant view, and that was the biblical perspective on history. And these views are contrary to each other. And so it can be frustrating sometimes because you send your kids to school and they learn about the dinosaurs. I'll go into that a little later. But Yeah, they go into the dinosaurs. They go into the evolution of man. But remember, these things are supposed to be verified. Evolution has never been verified. Never. You can't verify it because it takes too long to happen for anybody to observe. So again, you have to take either one of these two views, either what the Bible says is true or what the what the naturalists say is true. All right. I gave you examples. I showed you how in the fossil record that these fossils are created not in millions or billions of years, but we saw the cowboy boot that was fossilized. We saw it. It doesn't take hundreds and thousands of years for a fossil to form. Matter of fact, you know, I ain't gonna get into that. I'll get into that a little later. I gave you another example. I went into the second intermediate period of Egypt, and that's where Manfred Betek found the mass graves that some have associated with the Exodus. History from the naturalist perspective and what the future holds. I showed you, as you see in this picture at the top here, the earth will be swallowed up. It may be billions of years from now, according to historians and scientists, but eventually the earth will be destroyed completely. And you may be thinking, I know what I was thinking when I first used to read these things as a teenager or even as a young kid, like, dang, the whole world is going to be swallowed up by the sun. I almost lost hope thinking that there was no purpose to life. Again, the history from the Bible and what does the future hold? The kingdom of Christ, the kingdom of God. God wants a relationship with his creation. He provided that relationship, the means of that relationship through his son, Jesus Christ. And here's another thing about that, y'all. Do you know that plan was formulated even before God created the world? Before God created the world, let me get the scriptures real quick. I got my phone again. I'm going to go to it. From the foundations of the world. Foundations. World. Okay. Let's see. This is Hebrews. Actually, let's see. Ephesians. Excuse me, y'all. Love me before. Okay. So John 17:24. This is what it says. Father, I will that they also whom you have given to me be with me where I am, that they may behold my glory, which you have given me. For you love me even before the foundation of the world. And again, Ephesians 1:4, according as he has chosen us in him before the foundation of the world, that we should be holy and without blame before him in love. And one last scripture, Hebrews 4:3. For we which have believed do enter into rest, as he said, as I have sworn in my wrath, if they shall enter into my rest, although the works were finished from the foundation of the world. So basically, the plan of salvation for mankind, before God even created history, he already foresaw what was needed to reconcile mankind to himself. Okay. So again, the biblical perspective versus the atheist perspective on history. Which one are you going to believe in? Which one are you going to hold on to? Which one makes the most sense? Do you want to live a life believing that there is no cause, no purpose for your creation? Or do you want to believe that there is a cause for your creation and that you are very special to the Creator, so much so that he sent his only begotten Son to reconcile that relationship that he had with mankind before the fall? And that's the main question that I ask. So I am done with this. I'm gonna go. Let me get my sources so that y'all can go and look those up if you like. Just a few. I try to keep this as simple as possible. Y'all can go and check those sources out if you want. Take a screenshot. Do whatever you want with it. Okay. And let me stop sharing this. Bingo. So I'm about to put this invite in here, and I'm if you want to come in here, Ortega, here's your chance to let me know where I was wrong at. Let me know, or just, you know what I'm saying, just say what you got to say. This is a safe spot. I'm not a high-minded person. I try to be as humble as possible, and so if you feel like what I was saying is offensive or a problem, come let me know. Come holler at your boy. Come holler at your boy. So I think it was something else that I wanted to cover, and let me pull up my outline real quick because there's more stuff that I wanted to cover, but time just don't be allowing me. Let's see. Let me go get my slides. Not my slides, my documents. So the main purpose of this show was just, I pointed out the methodology because some unbelievers feel like Christians don't really do their due diligence when it comes to research. And pretty much I'm just showing you, like, Billy Carson made the same freaking mistake, y'all. He made the same mistake, thinking that Christians don't be out here doing the work. We do the work. We do the hard work. And a lot of Christians have realized the mistakes in the conventional dating schemes and the conventional methods that historians use. And the reason why there are mistakes is because there are preconceived notions. That's why I say that the Egyptian timeline the conventional timeline should be balled up and thrown away and restarted, because there's adequate information out there to show you that, hey, they was wrong. There is a huge probability that the conventional timeline that they use today is completely wrong. And if the timeline is wrong, then that means the rest or their interpretations of Egypt's history is wrong. That was the main point. Having network problems. Let's see. So I'm just pulling up some stuff here. Eyewitness accounts. Eyewitness accounts and the things that people experience. So the flood, for example, there are so many flood stories out there. Some people will say, well, which account is the right one? Of course, I'm a Christian, so I'm gonna say that the Bible's perspective on the flood is the right one. Have I read the other epics? Not epics, but the other accounts of the flood? I have. And if I was to judge between the scriptures perspective and the Sumerian perspective or Mesopotamian perspective with Gilgamesh, like the Epic of Gilgamesh, let's look at, for example, the dimensions of the ark. the dimensions of the ark and the way that it was built could sustain cargo. It could sustain not breaking up in the waves. It could sustain the elements. When you look at the scriptures, is what's his name? Noah was told to place mortar or slime or pitch on the inside and the outside of Noah's ark. Okay. I have not read of any account in the Sumerian text that indicates the use of pitch. But here's a funny thing. When you do this type of research, you'll start seeing where some things can actually, I won't say be merged, but they fit within the paradigm of the time. For example, this pitch that Noah was supposed to use for the ark, it was a substance that was used to cover the ziggurats in Mesopotamia. Well, why would they want to put pitch on the bricks on the ziggurats in Mesopotamia? Is it because they were aware of the erosion that could be caused by heavy downflow of rain? Very much so. But again, just to go back before I get too far ahead of myself, the construction of the ark in Atrapanes, Ziusudra, this boat was like the shape of this bowl. See that? The ark that he created was the shape of this bowl. Now, if we were to expect 8 people and a boat full of animals to survive in something like this, no, that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen at all. Not at all. It's not going to happen. But if we look at the dimensions that are given to us in the scriptures, well, a vessel of those dimensions could very well travel on the seas. And so those are the things that I'm talking about. When you look hard into the details, again, as a Christian, I took everything in the Bible based off of faith at first. But then when I started doing the research, all that did was cement my faith. It verified my faith. And so let me try to think of another situation that I can use. For example, yes, the Tower of Babel situation, right? You have a character in the Bible by the name of Nimrod, who is said to be the king over Shinar, Erech, Calnon, those other cities. All these cities are associated with ancient Sumer. And he wanted to build a tower to heaven. And in the melee of building this tower, God came down, saw what they was doing, because all the world's people or population had gathered into this one place in Babel, or ancient Shinar, right? And they started to build this tower. Then God came down and confounded their languages, because guess what? I ain't gonna say guess what, but God confounded or confused their languages, and then they stopped building the tower. Well, historically, we find another person of interest, and this person's name, his name is Enmekar, and it means great hunter or the hunter. His name is Enmekar in the Sumerian text, and he's an early Sumerian king, even before Sargon. He lived way before Sargon the Great. And the reason why I'm putting that out there is because there's a lot of people out there that's saying that Sargon the Great and Nimrod are the same persons, because academia has told them that Sargon the Great was one of the first persons to build cities and things of that nature, which I don't understand, because the city of Ur was around before Sargon was. All right, Sargon was an Akkadian king, and I also believe that he was a I can't remember the ancient name for these people, but dang, what was he? Amorite. He was an Amorite. Sargon the Great was an Amorite. And we have a lot of biblical references to the Amorites. But again, in this area, Enmekar is building this tower. He's building this temple to Ishtar, his deity. And then he makes requests to either an elder or to a king, to another king, for precious metals, for precious stones, to help build this tower. And within his speech, you will have to Google this. If you get a chance to Google it right now. It's called Enmerkar and the Lord of Arata. And I'll do shows on this stuff later. Let's see, 122, got 8 minutes. So in this poem, Enmerkar is saying that he wants to be famous. He needs these materials because he's trying to make a name for himself. He's trying to make his name great. He also stated that him and his people speak one language. So this person, Enmerkar, from Mesopotamian, Sumerian history, he fits the characteristics of Nimrod in the Bible. Just another example of what I'm talking about. But the verification process, again, well, I have the Bible, I have extra biblical evidence that suggests that this man Enmerkar, not Sargon, is Nimrod. And then when you read Josephus's account about the Tower of Babel, what he says is that, hey, no, matter of fact, let me rewind, and I'm going to go to Ashurbanipal, because he had a library that he bragged about and stated that that at one point in time, his ancestors, everybody, all spoke one language. So let's fast forward to the 1st century historian Josephus. When Josephus refers to the Tower of Babel, he says that Nimrod at first inspired the people to reject God and give credit to themselves for the prosperity that they was in. Well, go back to go back to Genesis 10, Genesis 11. The people in Genesis 11 said, hey, let's not do this. Let's not move. Let's stay together. Because the Bible said it was all of one language, and they came together with one heart and said, let us build a name for ourselves and a city that we be not dispersed out in the world. But we go back into the situation to where all of mankind, or most of mankind at that time, rejected God. That's exactly what Josephus said. And Enmerkar does not worship the one God, but he worships the female deity Ishtar. There's another clue. Josephus also states that the reason why he wanted to build the tower high is to avoid being flooded again or being drowned again like his ancestors. So we got Enmerkar, we got Nimrod, who both lived after the flood, and they associate themselves with the flood by building this tower. But Josephus says that the Lord came and destroyed the tower with a mighty wind. And today the tower cannot be found because they either didn't finish it and or eroded away. So I see Mr. Ortega did not want to come on and give his piece, which is okay. I do appreciate Ortega coming on here. The link is in the chat. If anybody else wants to come in, I'm cool with that too. I have at least 4 minutes. So again, if anybody wants to hop on, any questions, I'm cool. The link is in the chat. Hop on, say what you got to say, and then we can move on. I have, again, 4 minutes. I have 4 minutes. So let me see what else I can get into. Again, the eyewitness account, artifacts associated with the time. See historians who have written about specific events. I already brought up Josephus. These two competitive world views. That's another thing I want to tell y'all about. So the first edition of the encyclopedia, it actually used the biblical chronology. It used the Bible's timeline. And as you often hear me say, during the Enlightenment eras, dependency on the accuracy of the Bible had began to wane. So now we go from the first edition of the Encyclopedia Britannica. I don't know, was it Britannica? Yeah, the Encyclopedia, the first edition. It goes from 4,000 BC. It even listed Noah's the year of Noah's flood, which was 1,656 years after creation. But in the editions of the encyclopedia that followed, that was removed. And then you will see things like the Big Bang or certain prehistoric names given in the encyclopedia. Let's see what else. So yeah, so those two perspectives, again, like I said, these are the competing worldviews that we're dealing with today. But the crazy part about it is that only one of them is allowed to be taught in our schools. And I'm 100% sure that this was done on purpose. You see, with all of the inconsistencies that the atheists brought forward in the years of the Enlightenment era, are all now, I won't say all, but the majority of the perspectives that they held and that they taught are now being questioned. Again, the Big Bang being questioned by the James Webb Telescope, the Egyptian timeline, the radiocarbon decay rates. What else? There's a lot that I can't think of right now, but again, these are the two worldviews that we see. Let's see, how many minutes? Where am I at? 1 more minute. Is there anybody that's gonna hop on? The link is in the chat, and I got 1 minute, y'all. And I'll say this before I have to go. Again, this show, basically, this particular podcast was just illustrating the two perspectives of history, the atheistic view and the biblical view, and how those two, they contrary one another, and how in the biblical view, we have a plan, we have a causation, we have a relationship, and we also have a plan. But in the atheistic view of history and the future, there's none of that. There's none of that. There's no relationship. There is no plan, and there is no causation. And the question that I asked was, which view do you hold? If you missed it, my apologies, but you can always rewind and go back and watch the video. And as I always do before I get off, considering these perspectives on these two perspectives, which view for you would you rather hold? And the reason why I wholeheartedly hold on to the biblical view is because I understand that as a man, as a human, I have flaws, I have mistakes, and there's more to life than just chemicals coming together just to eventually be burnt up by the sun. And so in that relationship with God, I understand he created everything to have that relationship with me, with his creation. And again, the atheistic view, we just don't have it. And so if you have not considered coming to Christ, if you have not considered putting your faith in God and in his word, I promise you, you will not be disappointed. You can't believe everything you hear. You can't believe everything you read either. You have to do your own research. And yes, belief or faith is very important in the Christian faith. But don't get it mistaken. Don't get it mistaken. It can be backed up most of the time. Well, most things can be backed up. But when we get into the area of miracles and supernatural events, there's no type of science that can observe and verify that. So if you are listening to the sound of my voice, you don't have to go sound bells everywhere and tell everybody, hey, I'm a Christian. You don't have to do that. All you have to do is right there where you at. You can say it in your brain, in your mind. You can go somewhere privately, say it to yourself, pray, and just say and ask the Lord, Father God, in the name of Jesus Christ, I don't know if you're real. I don't know if the Bible is real, but I want to know the truth. And I'm asking you to come into my heart to help give me that understanding. I believe in the finished works of Jesus Christ. And I'm asking you to be my personal savior. And if you said that prayer, I promise you, the Lord has heard you. He will come into your heart and give you that understanding that you need. But you have to do your own due diligence. As the scripture says, study to show yourself approved. Because you don't want to be running around like some Christians. And I'm not trying to pick on my brothers and sisters in the Lord, but we can't mix these two perspectives together. We can't say we believe in the atheist view of history, but then claim Christ. And then we mix all these things together. Oh, well, God used evolution. Well, evolution is not even in the scriptures. There's none of that. So again, I want to say I appreciate everyone for coming in. If you watch this again, share and like and send it to your friends. And it looks like Mr. Ortega is here. I've gone 4 minutes over. So if you already believe, then you're gonna okay. Let me show y'all what I'm talking about here. So Mr. Ortega, again, if you already believe, then you're going to hear what you want. Due diligence will lead you down the road of no evidence for and if a good. I don't know what you're saying right there. Of course, evolution not in the Bible. Hey, bro, I'm gonna give you 10 seconds. If you want to come on here and say what you want to say, explain to me what you're talking about so we can at least try to tackle one of your issues. If not, then I'm just going to end the show and you'll see me next week, God willing. So here we go. I'm going to put this link in here again for you, my friend. If you want to come in, I promise you, I'm not going to disrespect you or nothing like that. I want to hear you. I want to hear your side. I want to hear what you have to say. So there's the link. You could come in if you want to. If not, hey, there we go. Add to the stage.
Now you can choose. How you doing, my brother?
Good. Hey, please introduce yourself first.
My name, yeah. That's why I slowed down and said, how you doing, my brother? My name is Cedric of the Pseudo Killers. In these YouTube streets, pretty much everyone knows me. Real black atheist. And not just the fact that I'm an atheist, I'm also grounded in methodological naturalism. And I study the fallacies. So I got into your build, and unfortunately, your arguments are mostly rooted in incredulity, confirmation bias, and circular reasoning. Those are the three main points which I see in your whole deliberation. Incredulity is based on you not understanding or knowing the scientific process, and science is counterintuitive. So you're begging the question with regards to a number of issues is only because of your incredulity. Again, entertaining the Bible, for example, with your last statement, you need to pray to have God answer you, yet you stated you believe in your heart that Jesus, blah, 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 blah. Those two things you already believe without evidence, and now you're going to pray to hear your own voice telling you, confirming what you already believe. Now, that again is circular reasoning, engaging with the information for confirmation bias. And lastly, evolution cannot be found in a document that was written 2,000 years ago. That doesn't undermine the fact of evolution. Your biblical creation story is simply inherent from Genesis 1. The first verse, the whole creation narrative is completely fabricated nonsense with no evidence to support it. So again, if you're going to entertain the Bible and question science based on your incredulity, it is flawed reasoning how you conduct your research and your inquiries.
Okay, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. So when I stated that my faith, faith is important to the Christian. We start off with faith. With faith. But remember what I also said. I said once you do the research, once I did the research, my faith was cemented. Now you say, hello. So you said that my incredibility or
incredulity. Your incredulity means I don't know how a particular subject or particular matter works, and because I don't understand it, I dismiss it as being far-fetched or something that can't be done. However, the evidence is there and it's all supported. That's the big difference.
So now what I said earlier in the presentation is that there is no evidence. There's no evidence for evolution. But then I realized, hold on. So, but then I have to be precise when I say that. There's no evidence of macro, not micro, macro evolution.
Wrong.
Now I'm allow you to explain to me why. I'm allow you to explain to me on that part as to what proof do you have of macro evolution. The floor is yours, my friend.
First of all, science, we do not talk about proof, we talk about evidence. And the evidence for evolution as a whole is abundantly clear.
Macro. Give me the macro.
Stop. Slow down. We're dealing with your incredulity. The fact that you distinguish macro from micro is an indication that you do not understand the evolutionary process. So I'm not going to acquiesce to a faulty premise. I'm going to explain. Mike, what's the difference between micro and macro evolution? Let me ask you to see if you understand the fundamental difference.
Answer my question, then I'll answer yours. Give me an example.
So you don't know. So
give me an example.
Homo sapiens sapien. Homo sapiens sapien, us. Primary example of macroevolution.
Okay, so show me evidence.
Show you again. Again.
Show me
I do not
evidence. Show me evidence. Hold on. I don't want to do this to you. Show me evidence of evolution with us. Show me. Give me the evidence.
Show you. Show you.
Yeah, give me the evidence.
What type of evidence, or what do you think "show me" means with regards to evolution?
You said that there's plenty of
Science
evidence.
is not. Again. Here goes your incredulity. Your incredulity is evident in the question itself. What evidence would be sufficient to show you? Because the evidence is abundant. Now we're gonna go into the documents. You're going to the museum.
Pause. Oh, give me the evidence. You said it's abundant.
Would you quantify as evidence? Yeah. You're asking for evidence, but you don't even know what the evidence would be. What is that evidence you desire?
See, what's happening is that because you know there's no evidence, now you're trying to play my intelligence.
No,
but
now we're proving you do not know what you're asking for. What evidence? What is the evidence you desire?
Give me the evidence.
Ask me, tell me what the evidence you want, and I'll produce it. Let's see if you're going to be scientifically accurate.
Show me one species evolving into a completely different.
There you go. I needed you to say that because it illustrates your ignorance of the subject matter.
Well, just give me the evidence.
Good.
Okay, I don't know what I'm talking about. Give me the evidence.
First you need to get
give me the evidence.
Evidence of what? Your nonsense?
Evolution. Give me evidence of evolution. I'm waiting.
Look around you. What does evolution mean? What does evolution mean?
I'm waiting for you to tell me.
Changing a little frequency over time, and evolution displaying the diversity of life that we see around you. So if you want evidence, look outside. But your incredulity again. Your incredulity. You do not understand what micro and macro evolution is. So no, that's like me asking you, show me.
You don't have the evidence. You don't have the evidence.
Bro, because you keep saying the same ignorant thing means it's right.
You don't have the evidence.
So you say it again. Say it again.
So say it again.
What evidence do you want me to show you? What's the evidence? What is the evidence?
I don't see the evolution takes place anyway.
Wait. Okay. What is the evidence?
You still doing
good. I'm gonna give it to you. As long as you tell me what is that evidence you need. Break it down. What is it?
I have to answer your question, but you don't want to answer mine.
I'm gonna give you whatever it is you want. So tell me, what evidence do you need to establish evolution? What is the evidence that establishes evolution? Go ahead. Go. Now I asked the question. If you can't answer me, then the conversation is over. Yeah, and I answered you. So now I'm asking a question. What is that evidence? What is the evidence you require? You don't know, right? You don't know. You don't know. You don't know. You don't know. Just say you have no idea what type of evidence you're looking for.
You don't have it. You know you don't have it.
I don't know what you're looking for. What are you looking for?
Because you can't find it. That's
what? Why. No. You don't answer a what question with because. That's ignorant. So what evidence are you looking for?
Hey, bro, that's adaptation. Stop.
What?
Stop.
Oh, adaptation.
Give me evolution.
You just said it. You just said it. You said adaptation, right? Adaptation is a mechanism that produces macroevolution. Go figure.
Oh.
But again, what is the evidence that you require? What is the evidence?
Hey, we good now.
No. But we're not good. We're not good because I feel that I haven't provided you. I provided you with the evidence, right? But you need to tell me what evidence you need. What is the evidence you need? What is the evidence that would support evolution for you? Since you're such an expert, what is the evidence required?
I didn't say I was an expert, but I know.
Oh, so
you
you're
don't
asking
have,
for something
I know
that you don't
I know
even
you
know
don't
what it
have the
is.
evidence.
So you're looking for
I know
something that you
have
don't
the
know what it
evidence.
is you're looking for.
Give me
So
evidence.
when it's provided,
Give me
you
the
still
evidence of
don't
evolution.
know.
And then I
You
say
still don't know.
adaptation, and you say that's evolution. That's the problem,
No,
y'all.
no.
I heard what this man
I say
said.
that's
He
a
said
mechanism.
evolution it's a mechanism.
Bro, you want to debate? You want to debate? Because conversations like this with people of this level of difficulty understanding the subject is hard. So we get in the ring and you can get taught. You want to debate me? You want to debate?
I'm trying to get up.
You want to debate? I'll have JJ set it up now. We can do this next week. Evolution? Yeah, we could do this next week. Yeah.
Are you going to answer questions?
No. We're gonna have a debate. You're gonna lay your premise. You're gonna do.
You can't even answer the question,
bro.
You can't even answer a simple question, bro.
Oh, so you're running? You just did a presentation. Bring your presentation to the debate, and I'll answer all your questions. I'ma answer.
I'll do a whole nother presentation on evolution.
Either you're gonna step in the ring.
You can't show anybody any evidence of evolution.
Either you're gonna step in the ring.
Use adaptation.
So you're not gonna step in the ring. You're not gonna step in the ring. So you're not gonna step in the ring. You're not willing to stand behind what you're saying now on a big stage and a big platform.
I do what I want when I want to do it. Okay.
I thought so. So you. I'm the only viewer you had up in here, and I'm calling you out to give you a chance to present that nonsense on a big stage, but with pushback in real time. You want to do it?
A big stage. Did you say a big stage?
You want to do it? Yeah. Bigger than one view. Bigger than one view. We can get at least 5 people to view it.
Okay.
So,
well, look.
You ready? You gonna do it? You gonna do it? I'm gonna have JJ reach out to you. You gonna do it? You said you gonna jump in the ring?
Am I gonna jump in the ring?
Yeah.
If I find time to, yeah, I would. I'll put your name down on the list.
I put my name down on the list.
You'll be number 3 on the hit list.
Bro, I've just proved my point.
You didn't prove anything.
I proved my point.
You didn't have a point.
You're not ready to show you nothing.
Let me show you something. All right, there. We can't hear you, bro. So let me explain this to you real quick. I would do a debate with you. That's nothing. Okay, yeah, you had to go. That's the typical thing that unbelievers do. They won't let you get a word in. You ask them to show you proof, but they won't show you. Now he wants to question my intelligence, and then he says adaptation is a mechanism of evolution. The problem with that is that we can see adaptation, and adaptation is not evolution, because for the things that this man want to tell you are adapting, it's just a simple rearrangement of DNA codes. The DNA code, for example, for an animal that may live in the cold areas, they have a lot of fur. They may not have, that species of animal may not have started out like that. But because of environmental changes, now it grows a lot of hair. That's adaptation. That's not evolution. Again, the problem, y'all misidentify adaptation and call it evolution. Now, I invited him on here so that he can give me proof of evolution. Yeah, I am not an expert, y'all. I'm not. But I ain't dumb either. I already know what their answers are going to be, because they put this stuff out on social media all the time. JJ 7000, I've heard of him. I've heard of his debate league, but hey, I'm not afraid to go anywhere or talk to anybody. My time just ain't, I don't have that convenience like some people do. But again, he didn't show us any evolution. He said adaptation is a mechanism, and I'm the one that had to tell him that. I'm the one that had to bring that out. But nope, he didn't provide it. So with that being said, I want to say shout out to, again, Paradigm Shift TV 314. Want to say shout out to DMG. Want to say shout out to the Super Team, Dream Team, the whole Paradigm Shift platform. And guess what, y'all? I'm late and I'm out.
Yeah. I know I got about 30 seconds to make y'all feel this before y'all turn it off these days. That I might not even release this. But I be doing this shit for me, help me get through. I feel like I give until I can't, but most don't recognize until I ain't. Blood on them covers, she hoping paint. Sorry mama, but it ain't. This world took a toll on me, and everyone that say they love me always seem to follow me. The same one that call me great, treat me like I ain't shit. I read between the lines, it's written all over your eyes. I see the disappointment in the eyes of the ones who want me dead, but I ain't never been scared, I tried to get there. Sometimes I wonder if I survived or did I die on that ride to that hospital. Demons all around me, I am not mental. This game of life, it is not simple. Last time I was happy, I was popping pills.